Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, Mr. William Richards. How you doing, William?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for coming on, man. Good to meet you. Good to meet you finally. We've crossed paths. Calgary, the infamous small world, biggest small town ever. All those cheesy jokes that my audience probably gets tired of me making, but they're so true. I can't help it. Let's dive right in. You are the founder and CEO at Urllo. What's a Urllo? Let us into the tent. Give us a little bit quick, and then let's get into a good conversation about it.
Yeah, well, Urllo has been around. Urllo itself has been around for a very short period of time because we just rebranded to Urllo.
Fantastic.
But you may have known us previously as Easy Reader. Now Urllo. Urllo is all about keeping people connected when they go through technological change. So, what does that mean? So, our kind of motto is every connection matters, and so what that means is, when you're going through a business transformation, like let's say you're rebranding, like we just did. Let's say you're going through a website replatforming. You are moving vendors for some reason. You've done an acquisition, a divestiture. You've gone through some sort of business change, and you need to make sure that your audience, your digital audience, gets connected to where they should be now that things are a bit different. And so that's what we do.
Fantastic. How long have you been doing it for?
It's been slow. We started the idea and nexus of the idea and marketing website launched in 2014.
Okay.
So 10 years.
I was going to say,
really
happy 10-year anniversry. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And probably a little bit slowly, then all of a sudden, and then spits and spurts and kind of the journey, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on this, but we're bootstrapped. So we're growing on revenue. So that means that our growth curve is certainly slower than it would be should we have a whole mountain of funding. But what it means is that we've built this really robust and durable business over this period of time.
Well, it changes what you're chasing, right? And what experience you're creating. Are you spending time on your next investor deck, or are you actually spending time on the product to make sure the customers and, which we will get into. Talk to me a little bit. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid on that. Bootstrapped versus funded. Talk to me about that. Was that a very deliberate decision early on? Was it and I'm being tongue in cheek here. Well, we couldn't get an investor anyway, so we just figured out how to do it. Give us a little bit of the origin story, because there's a lot of people probably sitting 9 years ago going, do I go left? Do I go right?
Yeah. I definitely have a predilection towards bootstrapping wherever that is possible. I think that sometimes the incentives when you go with funding can get out of whack, right? You're just chasing the next round. Once you get on that train, you're basically on that train. And I'm not ever going to say that we would never do that. But it's my inclination to continue to grow on revenue. I was a big fan of like DHH, David Hannemeyer Hansen, back in the day, and how they built Basecamp, very bootstrapped, at least for a period of time. I think still they are. So, I just like the idea of control and doing what's sort of in the long-term interest of the business and not really the short-term interest of the business.
I appreciate that. And from the perspective of, and this is just a complete hypothetical, like specific incidences where it maybe held you back, but also where it allowed you to move forward with your own, marching to the beat of your own drum versus, too many masters kind of approach. If thinking back on it, was there places where you're like, you know what, that maybe held us back in terms of growth, but look where we are now and look at the, the back end or the infrastructure that we've created, because that was our focus. If we didn't have an amazing product, that was what we were trading on, right? Is the solution we were actually providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Did it hold us back? Yeah, I mean, it probably has slowed us down. We now live in a world where we have a couple of knockoff competitors where they effectively copied and pasted our website and product. And so hence the rebrand. And, we have a lot of business strategy that we've been working on in 2024 and in 2025 that will differentiate us in the market. But could we have done this sooner? Yep, we could have. My background's in technology. It's not in finance. So like when I think I think you kind of like go for the tools, right? And so like, I know tech, I know how to build products. That's the tool I went for. If I had been more business savvy, finance savvy, maybe that's a tool I would have gone for. In a future world, I may go down that. Like, let's say,
I
I
appreciate
exit Urllo
I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, okay.
and, maybe next time it is more well funded. Because frankly, I'll have less time and I'll need to shorten that time.
And you are not the you that you were 10 years ago. And like, I appreciate your openness to like, no, it's not binary. It's not, yes, I'm into it. No, I'm not. That was the journey we were on. And here we are. And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not saying
exactly.
I wouldn't do it differently next time, just to maybe even experiment with the other model.
Yeah.
As an older, more mature, I've seen more, I've done more. It changes your perspective on things. I really appreciate that. You guys are Calgary based as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Do you have what percentage of your customers are in Western Canada or even in Canada for that matter? I'm assuming you have maybe a fairly low footprint. I'm guessing, but I could be wrong.
Very low.
Okay.
The well into the low single digits are in Canada,
Okay.
and the
Interesting.
vast majority of the market is in the United States.
Yes.
And then we look at areas like the UK, EU, Canada, generally the English speaking
Mm.
kind of world.
And for you, obviously being a marketer for many years, like what you talked about in terms of your rebranding, your replatforming, you're changing your website, you're doing something, that's such an easy landmine for people to bury on themselves and not even realize until they launch their new website and all their redirects are broken and nothing's working. Are you working typically with a larger customer who's a little more sophisticated and just knows that this isn't non-negotiable and might have landing pages and it can be quite a spider's web or a soup of variety, but even at a small level, I'm assuming larger companies have had a higher get it factor in terms of your potential customers.
Yeah, I would say that's true. We do have customers of all shapes and sizes,
Okay.
but certainly where our focus is and where our customers just really get it
Mhm.
is in that larger space and those folks that are going through change. And a lot of people don't exactly know how the technology works. They just know, they have the problem. They've been charged with a rebrand. They've been charged with replatforming this technology. A lot of folks are learning this for the first time. So
Yeah.
we're actually helping educate them about what they need to think about as they go down this journey. And so,
Okay.
we've put a lot of work into content to try to expose some of those gotchas that might trip them up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do tend to go more towards the enterprise space. That's certainly where we're aiming.
And even in that space, and you just kind of led to it, lots of education, lots of helping the customer understand, like there's that problem aware, like I'm kind of aware, but I may be aware at a 1 out of 10 and there's 9 more levels I need to understand before I go forward with this because I can do it a beautiful rebrand. But if I mess up our URLs, my ass is on the line, right?
Yeah,
And there's
exactly.
oftentimes somebody gets saddled with that who hasn't done it before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
And how are you getting on the radar? Let's talk a little bit about the sales journey and like that. The enterprise sale tends to be longer tail, tends to have a lot more stakeholders involved. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about even maybe how that was in the quote unquote early days, however you want to define that, to even now as you guys have reached a higher level of sophistication. And I'm assuming also there's more people out there that know this is like 9 years ago, maybe there wasn't as much awareness around this, which I hope there is more now, thanks to you and just the reality of people becoming more aware of what can go wrong.
Yeah, well, you've touched on a couple things there. So you're getting into something that we talk about a lot, which is category awareness. And so you're right that even this as a category is not super, well understood. And so we're trying to go kind of up the value chain or up the funnel, if you will, to talk more about the problems that we solve rather than the solution that we solve.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
again, I'm a technologist and I built most of the product, and now I'm getting less and less. I'm doing that work less and less, which is smart. But
I hear a hint of reluctance maybe along the journey, but
I like it. I
that's
like to
yeah.
build.
That's for our therapy session. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah, exactly. Um, So, I built it. When we launched, it was the copy, the website was all very technically focused. It was all about what we did, the technology of it. And so over time, we've been going and up the funnel to talk more about the
Classic
problems that we solve.
technology led founder right there.
100%, 100%
Yeah.
guilty.
Everyone
And
who's listening who finds themselves can define themselves that way. Just be aware of it. It's not right or wrong. Just be aware.
yeah. Well, and it's good and bad because
Yeah,
like there are
totally.
people that are looking for exactly the tool that you've created, and those people will find it, and you're speaking directly to them, but you're kind of missing a huge
Yeah,
chunk
yeah, yeah.
of people that don't understand technology. And now you got to speak to them in the problems that they're, having.
And
And
just
so,
just just
yeah,
touching on that, even understanding your customer and the category. I appreciate we started broad, but I'm charged with a rebrand. But probably someone on my technical team is going to be much more oriented to like you and them could geek out a little bit more. And I'm just saying that playfully
yeah,
versus
yeah,
I'm leading this rebrand. I've got stakeholder interviews. I've got customers to think about. I got a board that's being answered to indirectly through my work. I just want this thing to work. I just want to make sure I don't screw it up versus
yeah,
somebody who really wants to go, oh, how do you do it? Like, I want to understand that. And it validates, but they also kind of love it, which
yeah,
sounds like where you live a little bit or where you have lived for sure.
yeah, definitely.
How do you like that bridging that gap as you've brought for you as a founder? Was it bringing in other people from the outside, or was you also just realizing, hey, you can't call it a blind spot if you're aware of it, but you're like, oh, I realize where I live and where I'm strong. Was it about bringing in other perspectives into the organization, especially as a bootstrap startup? Those hires are key, but they're also expensive.
Yeah, they sure are. Yes, I would say that, I'm a person that loves to learn. I'm a learner at heart. And so I'm, I'm aware of that there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I know tech, I know how to build tech, but when it comes to communication and yeah, whether visual or with words, this is where I've needed some help, and that's a good thing. I need help with a lot of things, actually. I want to. It's my mission to be the dumbest person at this company. Uh, but
Everyone,
you know what I
if
mean?
your team isn't smarter than you, you're not hiring properly in their areas of expertise. I've been on a similar journey, so I'm relating for the sake of it. Yes, I hear you, my friend.
Yeah. So
I don't need to ride in on the white horse. That's not I should stop doing that. I should stop even thinking about doing
yes.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I've just been slowly building the team over time, and we focused. Sarah joined me first, with like an incredible competency in sales and relationship building, and closing, and then we've kind of our technology team has ebbed and flowed over time. We've tried so many different things in the world of marketing. This product is this company can be difficult to market because it is sort of difficult to explain. And we've been working on it for 10 years to try to figure out more, like, how do we explain what we do in a more succinct way? And so I really think we're getting there now with our new brand and the amount of work that we put in over the last year and a half to really tear down what we do into its like constituent kind of purposes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So yeah,
Is there a factor like the get it versus need it? Okay, I've got a degree of awareness. I'm tasked with this in my organization. I'm a customer. I'm in the right section. I know I need this versus someone running into your marketing, hearing you speak, or going, oh, okay, I kind of get it. Oh shit, I need that. Again, what side do you find yourself playing? As you're broadening out, you're probably pushing a lot more into make sure people kind of have a get it factor. So then you become the obvious, like I'm problem aware. Oh shit, I just became solution aware. Okay, it's you guys.
yeah, yeah. Well, we talk a lot here about being on the day one list. So this is like
I
building
like that.
category awareness and then being on that list, the day one list that you think of. We know that,
I like that.
through research, that if you're on that day one list, I think it's like high 80% of the chance you're going to be at the table.
Oh, okay. Nice.
You're going to be one of the people that are being considered. So that's really kind of what we focus on
You'll
there.
be the solution others are compared against, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the people who know the tool, like from a tooling perspective, they can find us really easily. We've invested a ton in SEO over the years. That's,
Yep.
you asked that question a bit earlier about how did we get noticed? And we focused a ton on SEO and we still continue to do so.
Probably a lot of long
Um,
tail people searching for a very explicit problem. I
yeah.
need a
So
company to help me redirect my, like, I'm being overdone, but kind of.
yeah, we certainly rank really well for those like keywords like URL
Yeah.
redirection service and things like that.
Yeah.
And now we're really, trying to go, as I said, up funnel to be, how do we get found when you're doing website rebrand? Maintaining connections through those kinds of technological changes. We actually, interestingly, just had someone tell us that they found us through ChatGPT for the first time, which
Oh,
I thought,
that's very interesting.
yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So now we're getting, obviously they're having a conversation with ChatGPT about
Yeah.
their problem, and ChatGPT is, highlighting us as a solution.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast. I forget even who it was, but it was about, SEO in the age of AI and chat GPT specifically. And they said, that kind of top level where you used to go to your browser to go, hey, I need to learn about, you're now going to chat GPT. But once you go, all right, now I need a provider, the need for higher value content, because once I'm at that mid funnel, I don't need SEO articles. I need actual informative problem solving. And they were saying it like, oh, we finally reached the area where valuable content matters. I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, I think valuable content has always mattered.
Yeah,
But I'm biased. It was kind of almost facetious. Like, wow. So what you're saying is stop publishing garbage.
Right.
It just made me laugh in terms of the role ChatGPT will play. I'm informing, I'm educating. Okay, now I need a solution provider. When I get to your website, it better get me to the nuts and bolts really quickly of the problem, because I've already spent that time top of the funnel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, definitely.
It was a cool perspective. It validates a little bit, but the fact that they got the recommendation right out of ChatGPT, man, you jumped a pretty big chasm there. I think that's a huge win to hear that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were all pretty excited to hear that.
Yeah. Now it's the big question is how did they, because that's the challenge, the black box. How do we make that happen more when we're not even 100% sure at how it got there in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
That is the black box of AI, but we'll not turn this into an AI podcast. I would imagine from a sales perspective, you guys are really, if maybe even not more, that 95/5 or the 90/10, where like only 5 to 10% of your target audience is actually in the market at any one time. I would almost argue it might be lower than that, because it's such a specific event, right? Even though 100% of your audience, but only 5% of the time is anyone going, I have this need right now, and I might not have it again for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, we think that it's probably, I think the research shows that it's about 95/5, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. It's my armchair. That was my armchair point of view.
Yeah. No, that's very astute. And so, yeah, it is difficult. But the interesting thing about our business is, I think at some point, any business of any
100%.
If that's doing anything that's working is going to need to do some kind of change.
If they're not, it probably will stop working. Like, we're not in the world of set it and forget it. Like that's that luxury, if it ever was. Well, you read the stats about the companies, how long they stayed on the Fortune 500 20 years ago versus now. It's like, it's insane. Like it's almost can be measured in months versus decades.
Yeah, absolutely. So
your audience is demanding it of you, and if you don't listen, you will pay the ultimate price, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Thinking about that, even that 95/5, or even that, like, is it a one time, or if you're working with larger organizations, also the need for enterprise, there's always a constant churn going on. They're always spinning up new divisions, or they're launching a new product. They're putting out a new microsite. I'm assuming from a customer profile perspective, those customers probably have it's a lot shorter return cycle than a smaller to mid-sized company that's doing it once every couple of years. Is that a correct kind of way to think about your customer?
Yeah, it really depends on why they've come to us. We have customers that are going through singular events, like change events. And so they tend to think of their need as acute and of having a limited lifetime. We actually tend to push back on the limited lifetime thing, because these links exist in the world. You've got web pages that are linking to your content. So if you take those redirects away, those people aren't going to find that. So while it's true that Google is going to update, your search engine results within a matter of months, probably, it isn't, you'll never get all those links changed on the internet. So that's one kind of customer. We have other kinds of customers that have a lot of intellectual property. So we've got, major media companies, major sports companies that you've most certainly heard of, and they're constantly spinning up and changing their intellectual property. Yeah. And so, we see a lot of account activity in those high IP companies.
Just the high volume, the high churn, the high of what's going on, and it matters, because that's what they're trading in, is their content, right, and their links.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about. Let's go back to the Calgary story. We joke single digits, Calgary, Western Canada, if even maybe Canada. Pros and cons of kind of staying in Calgary, and I love this. This originally started off as a podcast about economic transformation in Western Canada, and companies being fearful of talent leaving. But now I'm hearing much more like it's a lot easier to get talent here now, and people are coming here. I met a couple the other day that moved here from Florida specifically because of our ecosystem, and those are some new things I'm hearing more often. What's been your journey? Because 10 years you had a bit of a ringside seat to this Calgary tech scene. I say that very broadly because it's always been here, but there's more, I think, overlapping circles now than there ever has been.
Yeah, well, it certainly is improving.
Mm.
Access to talent is improving. It's still extremely difficult to get really good software developers, particularly really senior, great software developers. Other roles are much easier to come by these days, which is great. But yeah, it's getting better. Why have we stayed in Calgary? I like Calgary. I won't, I might not be here forever, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
But that's just a me and the weather thing.
I mean, every year about this time, you ask yourself that question of like,
Yeah,
I could be somewhere else. Why am I
I
here
could be
again?
warm.
Yeah, totally.
But no, I do think Calgary is a great place, and particularly, when you look at the recent statistics that just came out that showed like more people moved here than anywhere else
Yeah.
in the past year, and it makes sense. I mean, obviously, for all the reasons we know, cost of living, proximity to nature and mountains and outdoor activities, and all of these good things that Calgary is known for. I really like the idea, and I've always liked this idea of bringing the world's money to Calgary. So I
Mm,
kind of really like that our business isn't. I don't even know if we have one Yeah, actually we do. We have a couple Calgarian customers, but for the most part, we're bringing the world's money and spending it here because obviously we pay our people
I
here, our
love that.
staff are
I love
here.
it. Yeah.
They spend money on services and products in town, and so yeah, I that's how we get wealthier as Calgarians. We have to
Yes,
bring
it is.
outside money in.
Yeah, you're not. It's an infinite game versus a finite game of trying to take money from your. It's like taking money out of your right pocket and putting it in your left, and feeling rich on the left side and poor on the right side.
Yeah.
It is. What's your team size? Let's give a little bit of context in terms of who you guys, what makes you guys up.
Sure. Yeah, we're about 10 people right now.
Okay.
And we use quite a few different agency partners for different things like marketing and finance, and some GTM stuff. Yeah, we're kind of always noodling, and we tend to use a lot of contractors when we are running experiments. And
Okay.
then once we've
Like that.
kind of understood if the experiment is going to pay off, is working, then we'll operationalize it internally.
I like that. So really sticking to your knitting or following the core competency model of like, what are we actually the best at? What's a distraction? How do we minimize and stick with what's essential, which back to bootstrapping versus, oh, we just got a bunch of funding. We got to run out and triple our hires, which I don't care how good you are at that. That always has a chance to like often blow up. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not a mind reader, and I've been doing a lot of hiring over the years, and I still get it wrong. Imagine that. And imagine
Yeah.
I get to hire 30 or 40 at the time because I need to play up against a funding model. That's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Culture destroyers, but or force multipliers. I don't want to be negative about it because I know it can go both ways. Uh, so are you guys all in house? We live in a world of remote work. It sounds like your team is here. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Most of the team is here.
Okay.
So it's my vision to build a hybrid company.
Okay.
And so I really think that in-person work is really valuable. I think it makes creative collaboration much easier than a Zoom call. And having said that, we do have we have a couple of remote people.
Okay.
And so, we're just kind of working through that. We do get together, numerous times a year. And, but, I really am trying to build a team in Calgary.
Okay, interesting. And specifically, just out of preference, and there's so many versions of there's no right model. It's what's right for you, what's right for each individual, where they choose to work. And is it more, do you have a point of view of like, no, I think it's actually better because I've seen the results, or is it just your preference? Because that's also a completely valid answer.
I mean, it's my preference, but I do believe it's because I think that collaboration is really important. And I think celebrating together, I think you
Mm,
want to kind of have some empathy and with the people that you work with. Not to say that you can't do that remotely. I just don't have a lot of great experience with remote in this sense. And so I don't want to fully in person, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That's not really what I'm after. I think that people do great work when they're by themselves.
yeah.
But this idea of a hybrid really strikes me as something that's great. We're actually in the process of building a new office at the moment. And so this office is going to be like engineered from the ground up to be a space for collaboration. So it's not just rows of tables where you're going to have, monitors and get stuff done.
And people with headphones on ignoring each other, trying to keep it
no,
quiet.
no, it's,
Totally.
we're going to have like, here's this living room and we're going to have a couple of meeting rooms. They're all going to be kitted out for Zoom because we do a lot of Zoom. But yeah, it'll be a highly collaborative space.
I really love what you like the purpose built. I can see you kind of getting jazzed up about it even as you talk about it. And there is that mindset of like create a place that people actually want to come. A shitty office space is a shitty office space. Let's call a spade a spade.
100% agree. And so, we're moving into, I'll say we're moving into the Edison.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah. So like they've got a lot of great amenities.
It's got a cool vibe. It's got, for sure.
Yeah.
It is, in itself was purpose built for more what you're talking about. Mm.
Absolutely. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. We're going to build the office that way. We're in a place that is like that. And we're in, the edge of downtown, which also allows us to kind of do interesting and fun things in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a good look at. We used to be on the corner of McLeod and 10th, just literally just over the tracks from there, and it was such a great location because you were downtown without really being down in the core, so things were just a little bit easier. But you could get anywhere you wanted to go, literally in a 10-minute walk, pretty much, right?
Exactly.
The convenience. You've mentioned collaborating a lot, and I really appreciate it. But it's also one of those words you go, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Talk to me a little bit about even early days to now, and how you as a leader have fostered. Even yourself, how your own collaboration has maybe changed, because collaborating with 2 or 3 people and collaborating with 10, it's not a big number, but it's different. It does change. So how have you been how have you been deliberate about that? Because it certainly sounds like one of the things you really value. You've said it a couple of times.
Yeah, I do really value it. How have I mean, step one is for me, is just to admit that you don't know everything. Like you have to step into a
world
to
getting off that white horse, eh, William?
Yeah.
Just climb down into reality here with everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. No, you have to be open to respectful and curious collaboration with people. Like curiosity is one of our core 5.
Curiosity is that's my love language. You nailed it right there. Thank you. That wasn't a plan. Everyone knows I love curiosity. If you can't get out of your way to be curious, collaboration is not going to go anywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so, I'm curious about everything. I want to know why everything works. I'm the guy that wants to take everything apart to figure out what's going on inside that makes it work that way.
When you were a kid, did you have a room full of taking apart things, or did you also put them back together?
I did tend to put them back together. I wanted to understand, but I did take things apart. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely took a lot of things apart as a kid.
Yeah,
I love it. I look back on it very fondly, very fondly. Like, how does this actually work? And then there was like, can I modify it? Which usually was a no. So then it also ended up breaking it. But that's another personal story. What if I made it better? Oh no, don't have the skills quite yet to make it better, but I had the right motivation, which is that. And I think like, we have a loose policy at Clearmotive that years ago we abandoned there's 3 people in the room and one person says it wasn't their idea. The only reason it even happened is because the other 2 people were there riffing, and really kind of taking that and giving permission to be like, no, we came up with this idea, this I got it, you didn't kind of mindset. And it was subtle, but it did change things. Absolutely. Yeah. I've carried that with me for many years now.
I absolutely relate to that. I think that's why I think that this hybrid in-person collaboration is so important, because that whole riffing thing is really hard to do when Zoom cuts you off and only lets one person speak at a time. Like you kind of all need to be speaking it over each other a little bit, or at least have the flexibility to do that. Because if something pops into your head, it could be great. It could be hot garbage. Who knows? But like, let's say it, and like, who knows what's going to happen?
But I love it, like, because collaboration. But what I hear you say is like, it's okay to be a bit messy. Like, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait, sorry. Is it your turn? Oh, wait, no, me. Like, that's not how it really goes versus sitting around. Just like you got an idea that just comes out and you blurt it out. There is something fun about that. And we are still, we were humans around a circle way before we were humans in front of a Zoom camera.
100%
like, let's just be like, I'm not to get in the history of evolution, but I think this has been a pretty quick, I went from hating Zoom to spending most of my day on it thanks to our capital C COVID. But it also created a lot of permissibility for a lot of things that I think I like you said, the word hybrid. I think that applies to almost everything. There's always a way to think about it differently. And yet there's some tasks that are still better in person and some that are just fine alone.
Yeah, agree.
When you're curious about attracting staff and you said, really challenging, when you're in those interview phases with more senior individuals and they're maybe looking at you and they're looking at another company in town that just got a Series B round of 20 million or something, I'm picking a number. We could probably both think of who I'm talking about really quickly. What's that conversation look like? Because I appreciate like candidates, they're educated, they're informed. They're not like, oh, please give me a job. It's not like that. It's more of a balanced situation, which I think also leads to better hires. What's that dialogue look like when they're like, okay, you're 10 people, you're bootstrapped. This is what I value, and this is what I'm even talking to you versus the company that just raised, some gargantuan number and is hiring 200 people at one swath. How's that dialogue go for you? And are you in those conversations? Are you the one actually having those chats?
Yeah, I am. I definitely am. How it goes for me, it depends on the candidate, but I mean, there are reasons to work at Urllo, and I think they're really compelling. It depends on what you want, and so if you want to work closely with a small team of people and really understand what's going on, you can understand this whole business soup to nuts. There are not really any off limits things. We'll talk about any component of the business. If just frankly, we're not going to be able to pay the highest salaries. Right. We're going to pay top quartile for Calgary.
Okay.
But if you are absolutely after top dollar, this is not the place where you want to work.
Okay.
And I absolutely say that to people straight up like that. And it's okay to want whatever you want. Like if money's what you want, go for it.
Yeah.
It's just probably best not here.
Well, some of those other companies that we are not naming or talking about also don't pay necessarily the highest, but there's promise of riches somewhere. There's a rainbow, there's a pot of gold, which also sometimes works out and sometimes doesn't. I think that's been romanticized very heavily in our society in the last 10 years, 5 to 10
absolutely.
years.
And
drop out of school and be a multimillionaire at 24.
Yeah.
We can point to those stories because there's not that many of them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It does happen, not very often.
Yeah. Totally. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate not everything's for everybody, but the more clear you are on who we are and what we're about, the quicker someone can go, oh, this is for me or it's not. And I think being crystal clear about that, you're only doing I learned early on in my interviewing phase, I could get too selling. I could start selling the company. That was never a good idea as someone in a hiring position.
Right.
Don't do it. Be as brutally honest and clear. I said, maybe that's a better way to say it, about what your organization stands for and what you're about. And if someone identifies that, great. And if they don't, that's okay too, right?
Yeah. One other thing that I think that is quite an important pitch to some people, especially people who may have been burned by the VC-funded train, is that we run on revenue and we run cash flow positive. Like, we are a profitable company. So how long is our runway? It's infinite. So, we only hire people when we can afford to hire people. So, that if you're looking for some stability and if that's a thing that you're worried about, then that's a benefit that we can offer.
Well, and I'm silly as that sounds, that's become much more sexy even in the last 24 months than it was the 48 months prior to that, when you could raise X amount of million off a 10 slide deck and all those jokes that were floating around.
Yeah.
Do you ever get any FOMO in those moments when you hear those crazy stories? Now I'm really asking the personal question now.
No, I don't.
Nice.
I do not have any desire to be on that train.
I like your choice of words on that. It is a freight train for sure.
It is absolutely a freight train. Once you get on that train, you're not getting off. The only getting off
now without some scrapes and bruises.
Well, you're IPOing or you're getting acquired. But the acquisition is the target, not building a great product.
So it sounds so messed up when you say it out loud, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are exceptions to that. I don't want to, malign everyone, but we've seen enough instances where that's been the case that it's just sort of distasteful to me. Mm-hmm.
That is the beauty about being a founder. You can choose. You can choose where to take your organization, and anyone can choose to go with you. I appreciate why you're so passionate about it, because you are, and you've made that choice. And you're not 10 months in, you're 10 years in. So you've shown your commitment with action. Talk to me a little bit about the rebrand. It gets thrown around pretty easy sometimes. I think we're going to do a rebrand. I'm like, ooh, think long and hard. Talk to me a little bit about that decision on your guys' perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we've been working with, at the time, our fractional head of marketing, who is now actually our VP of revenue. So Matt, did an assessment of our business when we first brought him on, and he floated this as a potential idea, which I immediately shot down.
I was going to say lead balloon, Matt, lead balloon.
I was like, that's crazy. But the more,
Goddamn marketing guys always want to do a rebrand.
Absolutely. But the more we talked about it, the more it made sense. So Easy Reader, our old name, our dead name, if you will,
Yep.
was, Easy Redirect was, I spent all of 10 minutes thinking about that name. I put in
honesty, man. I love it.
absolutely no work into thinking about that name. And so, as time has gone on, we've been in business for 10 years, and it's become very clear. It became very clear that easy was not one of the problems that, not even in the top 3 problems that our, ICP had to solve. And it's in our name. And the other thing is that redirection, the part of it is quite limiting. It's, that's the only thing you can really do with that name. And so if you want to expand your products tangentially in the areas of like connecting folks, you're pretty limited. So that's kind of what I started noodling on, and Matt and I were talking about, and then we started, just talking about it with other people. And then it became clear that, it actually was a thing that needed to be done in order to unlock the next 10 years of growth. And I knew it was going to be very painful, and it was, but it was the right thing to do.
Anybody listening right now who's toying around with it, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask some of the lessons learned. Like any of the things that were painful, some of them were just the journey. Anything you would have done different, or you're like, whoa, okay, I didn't really see that landmine. Back to being, you got to be your own customer for a bit there. You got to be your own ICP, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Things that were particularly painful. I mean, it's just painful from a cost perspective. It costs a lot of money. You have to redo everything. Yeah. Implementing the brand is a lot of work. So because obviously everything is new, right? The name is new, the logo is new, the website is new, the messaging is new. So you're reinventing absolutely everything. It takes a lot of time. It took us a year and a half.
You beat me to my next question. Year and a half. Nice.
Yeah. It took us a year and a half when we started considering this to launching it.
How did your existing customers react? The concept of did they give you permission? Like, was there permissibility to go, oh yeah, okay, I get it. I kind of get it.
Yeah, I think there was. We actually got a lot of great feedback. People really loved it. We heard some feedback. Like at first I was really kind of surprised and shocked, and then it made a lot of sense. We heard a lot of, does this mean I need to pay more money? Which is a great reaction.
Why was that an offer, or I'm confused? Yeah, totally. Well, it's also with the existing like long-term relationships. It's a reason. It's news and noteworthy. Like it's a reason to reignite a whole dialogue, right? Again.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt's all over that. It's like PR train.
Yeah. Yes, I chatted with them about it. I went to your launch event, which was great, and it was kind of a who's who of the Calgary kind of tech scene was there. But I love creating like a reason for people to care, or a reason to even talk to people about something, even if they don't understand why they care. It opens a dialogue. Lots of times as organizations, we think things are news and noteworthy, and our customers are too busy and they just don't have time to care. Something like this, it's big. You can make it beneficial. And did you also then pull a storyline right behind it of like, this isn't a name change just for fun. It's because now we are so much more. Like, I'm assuming there was a much bigger narrative that got launched from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a big blog post on our website about kind of that is for me. And
I gave it a skim. I didn't read it, but I did skim it. I'll be totally honest. I did give it a skim.
All good. But that basically is the idea behind it and why we did it. And we had a lot of posts, like one from Matt, one from Jamie, one from Sarah, one from Shannon, all about their kind of impact, how it impacts them. And so, we've really we're trying to communicate why we did this to people. Also, there's we're going to be able to turn this into content. Like we used our own service to do our own rebrand.
Yep.
And so like, how long did it take our SEO to recover? That's an article. Like how did we go about implementing?
How long did it take? Now I'm curious. You got me. How long did it take?
So it's mostly back already.
Okay.
And we're at about 2 months in.
Okay.
So we're mostly back. We watch that like a hawk. We've got all the tools set up. We're monitoring all the keywords and all the competitors. We're seeing where the juice is flowing. So we got a pretty good idea of what happened.
Nice. Which is such a good, not only a good article, but from a sales perspective, hey, here's what we learned when we use the same service. Like it's so the level of credibility to me is high, and I love that personally. I'm like, oh, this isn't just something that you pitch; you actually get it, and you've also lived it. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's that little clinch that pushes it over the line.
Yeah.
Throughout the journey, did you put together, was it more of a, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? An advisory group, or what did you do to get client feedback? Like, how do you stay close to your customers through this? Was it formal? Was it surveys, or was it literally picking up the phone and having chats? Like, I'm such a big fan of like, don't fall in love with your version of it, fall in love with your customer's version of it. But sometimes those cycles, like sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's something more formal.
We didn't really do anything very formal. We, came up with a bunch of, as we were working through naming ideas and branding concepts, visual concepts, we kind of just informally kind of spoke to the people that we know.
Okay.
Because we are in the marketing and tech space and we know a lot of marketing folks and we know a lot of tech folks,
Yeah.
we kind of use them as proxies. We didn't want to, I'm one who's particularly cautious about revealing what we do ahead of time, perhaps overly so. Some might argue, and they might be right, but I really do like to keep, my cards pretty close to my chest until such a time that it's announced. So we didn't do a lot of like in-depth customer stuff about our new brand.
Okay, but you used your kind of peer group and kind of quote unquote trusted informal advisors. People love
Yeah,
giving their opinion, William. I've learned that over
they
the
sure
years.
do.
They love it. Some people, it's their favorite thing. Are you asking me what I think? Absolutely, I will spend an hour giving you like detailed feedback on what you asked. And I don't know about you, but I'm biased, and I know every community has its version of this. Calgarians are pretty helpful. Where
I
like people,
agree.
if they say they're going to introduce someone, they actually follow through. If you ask them for advice, they'll actually take your call. You can meet with people. I do think it's one of our Western Canadian superpowers, and I will. That's my story. But I don't know. It sounds like you guys tapped into kind of that same market. That's that same friends and family space, whatever that means.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that's true of Calgary. The generosity of this ecosystem continues to surprise me as someone who
Mm.
didn't always participate in it and only has really kind of started getting a lot more into it in the last few years.
I appreciate that. Well, your customers are somewhere else. You're based here. It's easy to be like, well, this isn't as relevant to me, and I think I've probably been guilty of that from time to time myself. But when you do connect, and even just this journey of doing the podcast, people are like, oh, how do you get guests? I'm like, people just refer, and like everyone wants to kind of lend a hand, especially if you're lifting up the community. You get a real positive response really quickly, and I will stick to the fact that it is one of our superpowers. Biggest small town ever.
Yeah.
What's the road ahead? And I know you like to keep your cards close, so I'm not asking for any corporate secrets. But you've obviously got this rebrand. You're playing the long game, which I really really love, and you've established that to be true. When you think about the next 10 years, is it more of the same, bigger footprint, better brand recognition, all of the above? What are some of the KPIs, forward facing KPIs you're looking at?
Well, when we look forward into the next year, we're going to be doing some work on product, a lot of work on product. We're going to be doing some work on GTM motion, so all the kind of go-to-market stuff, trying
Yep.
to understand how do we reach people better. We're going to be looking at how we package and price our product.
Okay.
So that's we've got some ideas about how to make that simpler for folks.
Okay.
And without going into detail, that will be kind of happening in 2025.
Nice. Okay.
But ultimately, when we step way back, our every connection matters. That's what we're all about. And so, how can we build and launch new products in support of that every connection matters through change, right? It's always this change concept that is the reason for needing to maintain these connections. And so we've got all kinds of ideas for related products, and we've also we have over 1,000 customers, and we have a lot of first party intelligence to kind of make some decisions on. And so, we have we actually in the past 6 months, we've done more work speaking to our customers than we've done in the past 10 years.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We have gone really hard into interviewing customers, understanding what it is they want, what brought them here, what are their pain points, all kinds of stuff. And we're building a customer advisory board. So, we've done more customer centric work in the last 6 months, like I said, than we've done in 10 years.
Oh, that's amazing. Is your current product, and pardon my own ignorance because I've never acquired your product, is, do I buy it or do you sell it to me?
It's kind of both, really.
Okay.
We have a self-serve motion and we have an enterprise motion.
Okay.
So the self-serve motion is your traditional SaaS. You go to our website, we've got a pricing page.
Small, medium, large. Yeah.
Totally. You pick your plan.
Gold, platinum, silver. Yeah.
Enter your credit card. Great. You're off to the races. You don't really need to
So I can transact as simple as a credit card. Okay.
100%. Yeah. And that's always been kind of my vision because that's what I like. I always get scared when I go to a SaaS software website and there's, it's always talk to us. For me, it's a disincentive. For other people, it's not. And so we do also support that enterprise sales motion, which is that traditional talk to sales. And, we'll dive deep on your problems and figure out if we can help you solve those problems and then what that might look like.
Yeah, so much because you're dovetailing into their change management journey, and that could be that's where the chaos happens, right?
Yeah, well, and every organization is different. How they organize themselves is different. The problems that they have are different. Yeah. What do the stakeholders look like? How do we get approval? Especially with Urllo and the services that we offer, which are technological services that are principally the need is principally from marketing or some other business unit within the company. So we've now got to have several business units kind of working together inside. So we get into all kinds of situations where, marketing said this and IT said that. And, we're just like standing in the corner of the room trying to figure out what to do.
Who's your hardest to win over? Is it IT? Is it finance? Probably not finance. I'm picturing IT being a potential either a detractor or not, or advocate.
No, actually, it depends on the organization. I wouldn't say one more than the other. Okay. I can tell you the one department in a company that always kind of frankly annoys us is procurement because they're really hard to deal with.
You and me and everybody else. Isn't their mandate to make your life shitty? No, sorry.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
I think they're bonused on that. Actually.
I was going to say it's all about where you're rewarded, what behavior is rewarded. And yes, I was talking to someone the other day, landed a big client, and they said I was told by them it was a large global brand, and they basically said, just so you know, like please stick with it. It's going to take you 6 months to get through our procurement process.
Yeah.
And I was like, is the size of the carrot big enough? He's like, I friggin' hope so. Yeah. In terms of like, yeah, okay, we're in now 6 months until we can actually do any work. And he was not enthused about it, being a smaller business and just the amount of capital, time, and energy it takes the win doesn't get you the procurement process will kind of mindset. But I get it. They're out there trying to meet their mandates and do their jobs too. And sometimes it seems to get in the way of innovation and forward motion. But you and I being smaller business owners, I think everybody gets annoyed with it, but for us, it can be crippling. I'm sure for you guys too, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's very hard for a small business to go through the same procurement process that like a $10 million a year deal might go through.
Yes. Touche. Touche. Just the amount of resources you have because it's worth it versus the smaller deal. What's your typical, now I'm getting to real nuts and bolts for the people that are still listening. They want the details. What's your typical sales cycle for something more at the enterprise? Obviously I put my credit card in. Is this a 90 day? Is it 6 month? Does it really depend on kind of the level of complexity and just the amount of hoops you have to jump through?
Yeah, it really does. It depends on the organization. And so, we've had enterprise deals close in a matter of weeks. Our trial is 14 days long. So if you sign up with a credit card, you always can do that. We've had enterprise deals close very quickly. We've also had enterprise deals take 2.5 years.
Yeah. How close are you to the imminence of the problem being a detriment? Like it's just also where you get brought in the cycle. Sometimes being brought in is the last minute of like, oh shit, we need to get this done, can really speed things up.
Yeah, exactly. I would say typically it's probably 1 to 6 months.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. No, I get it. And to your point, companies are as different as humans. Like you got different people, you've got different motivations, and you've got, this is how we do things around here versus oh man, we got to get this done ASAP because the things are imminent and we have a problem and no one thought about this to the last minute. Sometimes those are a little bit chaotic, but they could be nice from a close cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've already heard you say, I'm assuming your buying group or buying committee or amount of people involved in the saying yes can be extensive as you get all these different groups kind of coming in, bouncing in with their point of view. And large companies, what is it statistically? I think McKinsey is 11 people is your average buying group now at an enterprise level. But that's if you're even in the same team. You can have 11 people, let alone different teams.
Yeah, we've definitely been on some insane like Zoom calls with just rooms full of people. And we're like, wow, does it really take this many people to make this decision? Sometimes the answer is yes.
Yeah. Before I got into business, I thought big companies had it all figured out. I've been proven otherwise.
No, they survive in spite of themselves.
Yes, it shows that they have to make some money to oversight to kind of offset all that what I would perceive from a small business perspective as inefficiencies. What keeps you motivated? 10 years? You sound like you're as enthused as you were 5 years ago if I would have chatted with you, which I didn't.
Yeah, I'm particularly at this point in time, I'm quite optimistic and enthused. We've gone through this rebrand. We've, worked a lot on our strategic vision over the past year, and now we're just like really ready to execute.
Yeah.
I tend to look at it kind of no further than 5 years ahead. Yeah, what keeps me motivated? I don't know. I like what we're doing. I really like learning. I feel like there's so many more things I want to learn about and experience, and that's kind of what keeps me interested. Yeah.
And as the company's grown and there's more people doing the things that you probably would have had to been involved in, does that give you do you have a little bit more of a few more cycles to be in that just pure learning space?
Not right now.
Tyler, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm aiming towards that.
Okay.
Right now, I'm torn into a million pieces. Quite honestly, one thing that's really hard as the person that started everything and literally did every single job for years is how do I extract myself from all of these jobs? And so, one thing that I'm personally working on is getting out of the way more. And I have a mentor team, and I described it to them as I'm trying to be less of the blocker and more of the unblocker.
I like
because I feel like I'm the blocker on a lot of stuff still, and I've made a lot of progress. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm less of a blocker than I used to be, but there's still some areas where I got the keys, and we don't really have anyone else to give the keys to.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're making progress.
And you work with an external advisory, like you have coaches, you have people that you work with that way.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about that. So I'm part of the VMSA program, the Venture Mentorship Service in Alberta.
Okay, nice.
And so yeah, it's
great.
I know,
yeah, it's a program I know of from an acronym, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. Highly recommend it.
Cool, nice.
So yeah, it's a program that kind of operates on the MIT model of coaching. And so this means there are 3 coaches and 1 mentee, and there's kind of a specific format that you follow. There's homework, there's agendas. It's not just sort of like you're getting together and chatting. There's definitely some commitment on everyone's part.
Nice.
And thankfully that administration of that program is put on by Platform Calgary, and it's really a program I couldn't speak more highly about.
I love it. How long have you been involved in that?
About 3 years, I think.
Nice. I'm a huge advocate and have had the benefit of like a peer group. I've been in tech. I was in EO years ago, and just those environments, and not quite as formal, but you still have a chair and you have, there's a high degree of carefrontation in my group where people will listen and call you out or offer advice, but also kind of call you on your bullshit a little bit, which I think as founders, that you need that. I think I need, let's just say I need that.
I need it too.
I'll use I terms.
I think everyone needs it. And the great thing that I like, just lastly about VMSA, is as they say, it's not about the race car, it's about the race car driver. So it's really about the founder, and we're talking about personal things and how I can personally handle situations. They're not advisors. They're not advising me how to run a business.
Oh, I appreciate that. Okay, so it is really about you, and back to curiosity and ever learning and that level of self-awareness of where your triggers are actually getting in your way. And because we all have our stuff, right? We all have our stories. We all have our programs that were laid down many, many, many years ago. And When's the last time you asked an 8-year-old for advice? Well, maybe today, based on what weird trigger that was that made me react that way in a situation. Those are the leaders I find that really separate. I'm a huge advocate of that, and the older I get, the more I realize it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know who my biggest adversary is? Yeah, it's me. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that, and I appreciate that they're not advising the business; they're advising you, which allows you to really show up, be authentic, and go, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I think this is getting in my way." They might give you suggestions. That is invaluable. It's good for you. And 3 years is again sounds like you're taking it seriously.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Good for you, man. Do you mentor anybody?
Not yet, but I think like that's my next.
Cool.
At some point, that's going to happen. I want to be like a mentor in this program or
Nice.
some other program like that. I want to give back at some point. That's kind of my future vision for myself. At some point, hopefully, I can exit Urllo at some point. I don't want to do it forever.
Yep.
But I would love to give back in those ways when I'm able to.
When you mentioned the word exit, and I can't not, there is that if you don't exit, you didn't really do the thing. But also I hear you very much committed to like, no, we're running this business. We're building it. We've got a 5-year plan. It feels like that, yes, an exit would be nice, but it doesn't feel like that's not certainly the only driver. You might have done things differently, even from an external funding perspective, but it's certainly on the table. How do you balance, okay, maybe one day, but yeah, I'm still really committed to building this like healthy long-term business?
Yeah, I get emails almost every day. Most of them are just sort of outbound business development emails from private equity or whatever. But, it's always there. The idea is always there. I have no immediate need to exit. And we importantly have no investors to satisfy in that regard. So we've got nobody pushing us to exit.
Yeah.
I think, as I mentioned, what keeps me going is I'm really curious about what we can do with this business. I want to learn so much more about how to get to those next levels. At some point, I'm going to run out of steam on that. Or it's just going to be time for something different in my life because I don't want to do this until the day I die. So when is that? I don't know. I don't have any firm timelines on it. But, I'm not getting any younger. And so it's not going to be forever.
I think you got a few good years left in you yet, but anyways,
I do.
Just saying, I don't know how you shave. I can't see the gray, so I don't know what's going on over here. You're keeping a bit of it. No,
yeah, I got to shave that off.
It's a good strategy. No, life changes and it goes through cycles. But when I hear the passion and the learning, and it's like, well, if I wasn't doing this, I'd just go find somewhere else to do the same level of curiosity. So it might as well be here for now. Like there is that, like, what am I feeding and where's the best place to get it? And sometimes I had a speaker once in my executive group say, 90% of the time, your next biggest opportunity is the thing that's in front of you right at this moment. It's not that magical thing that's around the corner. Stop chasing it and start recognizing the opportunities that are right in front of you. And I've had that fireside chat with myself from time to time over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but it's just over there. No, it's probably right here, Tyler. It's probably right here. Any good founder, I think, questions those things on the regular. William, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate your honesty, your candor. I love to unpack these things that are going on in Calgary. Part of my mandate was to engage and inform in a diverse and inclusive economic, environment in Calgary. And best kept secrets, we've got a lot of these. And not that I'm going to say that you guys are that, but when most of your growth has been outside of this market, people go, oh, there's nothing going on here. No one really says that anymore, but I love telling these kind of stories and people going, what, really? What? This is happening here. So one, thanks for what you do and just being willing to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. I really appreciate the chat. It's been really fun.
That was really good, man. I love it. Hey, if someone wants to get, Urllo.com, URLLO.com, you guys have a great website. I complimented Matt on it. It's very informative. It gets to the point. I really, as a marketer, I quite liked it. But if someone wants to chat with you, is it LinkedIn? Do you have a preferred in the million ways that we all communicate now?
Yeah, hook up with me on LinkedIn. Go for it. Send me a message.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it. Everyone, back to your point about Calgary, reach out. Most people will respond to you. They will. Yeah. It's not an ivory tower kind of city. But William, thanks for the chat, man. I really enjoyed it, and congrats on the business, man. Best of luck with the road ahead.
Thanks so much.